Hi, it's Missy from Beer for the Ladies. So today I'm going to try making a beer all grain. I've done it before with my tiny little mini mash tun that I made. Now I've made one that's probably a little more efficient, and we're gonna see how it works. So I went to my brew store here in Colorado Springs, which is Old West Homebrew, and I got 6 pounds of 2-row pale malt, 1 pound of chocolate malt, 1 pound of roasted barley, and 1 pound of Crystal 80L. I'm going to use East Kent Golding hops, and then I have a British ale yeast from White Labs that I'm going to use for the yeast. Right now I have 5 gallons of water heating on the stove. I'm going to bring that up to 168.5, judging from the temperature that it is right now and all that. The math says that should bring it to 155 when it's in the mash tun, and I'll leave it in there and do the whole mashing and everything like that. I don't know enough about it to go into step mashing and all that. I mean, I've read about it, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to do what I know right now, and when I talk to the folks at Old West, they said that my plan will probably work just fine. So right now I'm going to show you the mash tun that I built. I did this with an old cooler that I've had for like 10 years. The lid popped off, which actually is going to make it much easier because then I don't have to worry about the lid getting in the way. I did drill a little hole in the lid right here that is exactly the same size as my thermometer. It's a nice tight fit, so that way I can drop my thermometer in and still monitor the temperature. I bought some things to put on here, some tubing, this fitting here that has the shut-off, some hose clamps. I bought 3 hose clamps, a fitting to fit through. I did have to cut into the side of my cooler here, but then I use this kind of as a standoff so that this hose can't pull out that easy. And that's in there really tight. And then inside I built out of PVC pipe, and then I cut all those little slots you see. I cut every one of those by hand with hacksaw. Put it together like this. I looked it up online, different methods people use, and this is the one I'm going to try. If it doesn't work, I always have one of these big mesh grain bags, which I've used in the past for just keeping stuff out of there, but in my mini mash tun, because the mini mash tun is not very efficient. But we're going to see how this works. I have leak tested it, and I haven't leak tested it with hot water, so I guess I'll see if that actually works. But I have leak tested it. Everything holds up really well. I sanded all those cuts I made. They left a lot of residue and little bits of PVC plastic. So I sanded those, ran through with air, rinsed them. I did everything I could to get all the little bits out of there. So my beer shouldn't have any plastic in it. So anyway, I'm working on heating up the water. And once I get up to 168.5, I'll put it in here and I'll drop in the big baggie of grains, which is pretty big. It's a pretty big bag of grains. It smells great though. It smells really good, so I think this is going to turn out really well. The other components of this recipe, because it's going to be a milk stout, I have a pound of lactose sugar that I'll add at the end of the boil. And the calculations right now say it's going to be just over 4%. So I'm going to boost the alcohol content because that's going to change kind of how that feels in your mouth by adding some corn sugar. I have a pound of corn sugar to add, which should take it up to 4.8%. So we'll see if that math works out. I mean, all plans are plans until life happens, and then that's it, right? So here in a moment, I'll show you all this. For you, it'll be a second. For me, it's going to be a little longer. All right, so I've moved outside. because this is a lot. I have a burner and all that. Just a note, putting all this 5 gallons of hot water in there is a little tricky. You don't want to splash it everywhere and burn, so I used a big half-gallon measuring cup, put about half of it in there, and then I could pick it up and pour it in. Everything seems to be holding just fine, so I'm going to put the grain in. All right, poured that grain in. It went in without incident. Now we're going to go and stir around a little, make sure there's no clumps. It's pretty easy. I feel like I got a little more water than what I need. I don't know if that'll make a difference, but I guess we'll see. I think in the long run, no matter what, I'll end up with beer. The only thing that'll be off is the measurement for the temperature that I started with. So I don't know if it's going to be a little hot. Let's see what it's at. Oh, actually, seems to have settled out pretty close right where I need it. Terrific. 155 is what we were shooting for. It looks like it's right at 155. Okay, great. So put that on the lid. Right there. Put this and get it. I'm gonna pop this right in there. Fits perfect. Oh, perfect. Look at that. Look at that. Perfect. So I'm gonna start my timer for 60 minutes. Okay, so now I'm sitting here waiting for that mash to go through its process. Something else though, I started with 5 gallons of water. I'm not going to be able to pull that much off of it because the grains are going to soak up some of it. So I think I'll have like 4 1/4, 4 1/2. So, but what I want is I want to be able to have a 5 gallon boil, actually about a 5 1/2 gallon boil, because that makes room for all that sediment and stuff. So what I'm going to do is when I have about 30 minutes left or so, I'm going to start heating up some more water on the stove, a couple of gallons, gallon and a half, I guess, 2 gallons maybe, so that I can, as I'm running that, trying to collect the wort off of those grains, I can run some clean hot water over it, and it'll pull off any other of the sugars that are remaining, you know, that are kind of stuck in there. And that should bring me up to the 5 gallon, 5 1/2 that I'm looking for, so that when I'm boiling it, and I'm going to lose about a 1/2 gallon on the boil, so I guess I should, now that I'm doing math, I should really go for 6. So anyway, I'll work that out here in a minute. That's something to think about while you're doing an all grain, is that the smaller batches I've done, that they do soak up some of the water, and so you have less than what you started with. That's like logical, I know, but it's not something I thought of the first time I did it. So then I had to wait, and I had to heat up some more water and all that other stuff. So that's just a tip for you. Again, I'm not a pro at this. I've been doing this for a few years, and it's mostly extract. So, and I don't really get into the minutia. I just get into, does it make beer that I can drink at the end? Yes. Mission accomplished. So we'll see if this one works out. But anyway, so just think of that. Have a little bit extra water. All right. So that's 60 minutes. This is sitting at about 152, 153, so we lost a couple of degrees, but I'm okay with that. I don't know what effect it'll have, but I don't think it'll have anything, but we'll see. Anyway, let's get this open and see. essentially we run off liquid, and we keep putting it back in there, and then the smaller bits come out, and then the bigger bits kind of make a bed, and then somehow that filters it, I guess. That's how it worked on my smaller mash tun. Let's see if this one works. Already. Let's see how that works. I would put it into my big pot here, and then I'll transfer it to the bigger pot that we're going to boil in. Alright, so I got about 6 gallons out of that. That wasn't too bad. I have it on my burner out here. I'm going to get it up to a boil, and then I'm going to add ½ ounce of East Kent Goldings for the 60 minutes, ½ ounce for 30 minutes. And that's going to be it for the hops. And then with 10 minutes remaining, I'll throw in the thermometer like usual. I'll put in my pound of lactose sugar. And I'm also going to put in this wort chiller, because this is way too big to fit into anything that I would cool with ice. So I'll end up cooling it with the garden hose. This just attaches, runs cold water through the chiller and then out the other hose. So, alright, finally boiling. It took quite some time because this is a big pot, but that's okay. Add ½ an ounce of East Kent Goldings. Do that. This is 60 minutes, so we'll go ahead and start the clock. In 30 minutes, I'll add the next hop addition. So make sure though that you're right here with it. If it flares up a little, you just give it some stirs, turn down the heat, whatever. Pot this big, it probably won't happen. It can come up several inches without overflowing. But if you're in your kitchen, obviously it's going to be a little different. So let that go. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Last hop addition here is another ½ ounce East Kent Goldings. I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes, so that'll leave us 10 minutes remaining. Then we'll add the lactose sugar, stir that in, throw in the thermometer and the wort chiller. Alright. Drop in this wort chiller. Keep these hoses out of the way. One of these will be hooked up to the water hose, like I said. The other one's like a drain hose, straight off into your yard or whatever. So I'm gonna drop in. All right, so we dropped in our wort chiller, which is connected to the water hose there. And that's where the hot water will come out. I dropped in my thermometer. I put in a pound of lactose sugar and a pound of corn sugar. Corn sugar's there just to increase the alcohol content, to kind of change the mouthfeel a little. So anyway, see, I don't know if you can tell, but probably burned off almost a gallon. So we should be, I might have to put a little bit in. When I'm done with this, we're going to run the water through the wort chiller. It circulates, draws the heat off and expels it. And then I'm going to use my siphon to put it into the fermenter, because 5 gallons of sticky wort is a little precarious, and I think it might end up making a mess. So we're going to use a siphon once this is cool. So see you in a bit. Alright, to give you an idea how well this wort chiller works, We're down till about 95 degrees. It's been about 20 minutes, I guess. And I don't have it on a super high flow. It's just a steady flow. It circulates and it takes the heat away. That's about it. Alright, so we've gotten the wort temperature down to about 75 degrees, which took a while, but it's okay. I mean, that first 20 minutes it starts to circulate, 20-30 minutes it drops it pretty quick. Going from 90 to 75 takes a really long time, it seems, but I've got it there. I'm going to use my auto siphon to siphon the wort into my fermenter rather than trying to deal with 5 gallons or 6 gallons or however big you have of this huge pot. And trying to keep that from spilling everywhere, because you can see that would be kind of hard. The yeast we're using is the White Labs WLP005 British Ale yeast, just so that you know. I know I said that's what it was. Now this I kept refrigerated, but I put it out and it's been sitting out. It says to slowly warm it up to about 70 degrees, which is where we're at now. About 4 hours, I guess, is what I've just kind of left it out on the counter. I sanitized it using Star San. Everything here has been sanitized. Make sure that at this point, once you start cooling the wort, that everything is sanitized when it touches the wort. So, let me just get my auto siphon working. Oh, one more pump. And then that's about it. We start moving it. You know what I did? Gotta move this down. A little bit lower. It won't work otherwise. There we go. Rookie mistake, I know. So anyway, I'm not going to stand here and watch all this. You know how this part works. I'm going to put the wort into this fermenter. I'm going to aerate it by shaking it around a little. I would normally stir it if it was in a bucket, but it's not. Aerate it, pitch the yeast. I'll put in a bung and an airlock and leave it be. So anyway, this was again a recipe I made up myself with a little bit of help from the homebrew store, and I hope it works out really well. Again, this is my first time making an all grain from start to finish. We had a 5-gallon batch, so fingers crossed that it all works. I hope that you try out some of your own recipes too, and thanks for watching. Cheers.